Hello, and thanks for checking out this video. We're going to be going over my application that I've been working on for quite some time. Started in November of 2022, and I think it's time to release it into the wild and hopefully get it getting used. Number one. Number two, feedback. Number three, developer help. Right, I'm going to be bringing up those three throughout this presentation of DCS War Room, the name that I'm going with so far. That may or may not change in the future, I don't know. But those three main topics. So, want to get it out in the open, have some people start testing it, start using it. Number two, I want to get that feedback. With any good software application, you want to get that feedback from the users and implement those changes or ideas or prioritize those ideas, get them voted on or what have you. And number three, developer help. I think any good developer, in my personal opinion, knows when to extend their hand out for helping another developer too with their projects, and vice versa. A developer that has a project that needs help speaks up, right? That's what I'm doing, folks. That is what I'm doing. Couple reasons. One, first and foremost, I think with everybody, life comes at us all fast and at different velocities. Things pick up, and rather than have this thing shelved and not see the light of day at all, I'd rather get this out in the open. Let's clear the air here. There obviously will be bugs in this. There are bugs. There are incomplete features. There are things that are not currently developed. There are misplans of directions in terms of the thoughts and ideas. I think getting other people's eyes on this and generally like a good overview would be hugely beneficial for the application. But also, I think it will provide value to the DCS community, but also people that have flight wings. Even if you're independent, you still can use this application. I'll go into the ideas of why I did this. Spoiler alert, I'll be taking that right off the GitHub after when I make that live. But this video really kind of serves purpose for getting a general idea of people's opinions on it, thoughts, initial reactions, that kind of stuff. So without further ado, let's talk about the application. So DCS War Room is an application that I created so that I could track my stats regardless of whichever multiplayer server I was on. So any DCS server, whether it be Hogget or, Gray Flag or what have you, right? Doesn't matter. I wanted to track my status for a couple different reasons. One, kind of a stats nerd. Be kind of cool, I thought, to track what I was doing in the air on certain different days, what munitions I was, more used to doing, depending on whatever the map was or the task was and that kind of stuff. And with DCS, unless you're doing complete write-outs before you get into the cockpit and stuff like that, you kind of are left in this weird little area of like, yeah, I hopped onto the Gray Flag and, I did this thing, or I think I, shot these, or, I did A to G, air to ground stuff, or I did air to air, or I did some FARP stuff, or whatever, right? Everybody, if you have Tacview and you have it on, it's just churning out these Tacview files, right? There's so much data in there, there's so much value that a lot of other wings and other, virtual wings and stuff like that, are just independent pilots, like to go into Tacview and like review their stuff. But that gets time consuming, right? Yes, looking over a Tacview file post-flight is something that I always do anyway. I always check out, what was going on around me. I tend to try to mentally bookmark things as they're happening without too much task saturation. Where I'm like, you know what, I really want to check that out in the Tacview file, But a lot of things, and like a very surface level stuff, like the data, like with munitions and stuff like that, go completely just, to to the side real quick, and everybody just goes into Tacview and sees where missiles were getting hit, and did I hit that, you know, SAM, and did I lose tracking, did I notch correctly, and all this other fun stuff, BVR, BVM, BFM, that kind of stuff. I wanted a very high level view of, you know, not so much the gamification of it, but general statistics, right? Some organization wrapped around this. So going back into my description, regardless of whatever server I was on, and I have been a part of a DCS flight group for about 2 years now. But like I said, one specific thing stuck out, and that was that I'd like to start tracking my performance and other people in my flight group. You know, I wanted to see what they were doing. You know, I want to see if they're spam ramming over there. You know, maybe that's a topic that we can all kind of review and look over some sort of like performance measure, right? We're always trying to get better. We're always trying to get more in tune with flight characteristics, situations. So like I said, statistics like total flights, this is high-level stuff. Total successful landings even too, if you're really new, or if you have some newbies in your group, going through Tacview file to Tacview file, bringing up their name and going through their entire flight, and then specifically looking for their landings. It can be really time-consuming. I generally like doing it. I think it's a really cool kind of time to go through everybody's flight characteristics, or, you know, post-mission stuff. It's a nice little conversation piece. But at a glance, it doesn't, you really don't have that at a glance stuff unless you're taking notes, or you're, you know, I don't know, taking digital notes, whether it be in Excel or whatever else. I don't know. But things like munition spent, munition accuracy too, like if you shoot something, did it actually hit, right? So it's just basic stuff. I don't care about, you know, it going Mach, you know, 3.5, you know, at 80,000 feet before, you know, just did it hit, right? Was it accurate? And then give some sort of a visualization of this, right? With whether it be graphing or just data representation in terms of numbers and that kind of stuff. And again, when you fly a lot in DCS, even if you don't, right? But if you do, all of these stats over time just kind of get shelved into their individual Tacview files. And there's really no learning going on there. There's no progression. You don't really see patterns. You jump in a cockpit, you do something comfy, you do something that you're used to, and it's just the way of the world. And specifically when you go into other, like I said, the other servers, whether it just be a training server or whatever else, if you want to start tracking your use of a munition, it could potentially show you where your soft spots are. You know, whether it is, you know, successful use of harms, or successful use of CBUs, or successful use of Mavericks. Who knows, right? This application serves the purpose on doing basically just that, but with like a multi-sort functionality that I think, like I said, would add value to the individual pilot out there just going up in the air by themselves. Maybe they're not part of a virtual wing. Or if you are part of a wing, and the beauty about Tacview files is it exposes everybody else's activity on the server that you're currently on, right? Which is great. So this could be server-side Tacview files. This could be an individual's Tacview files, right? It's pretty cool. So I like I said, I rather than keep this completely siloed, I want to get this out into the ether. So that's my little spiel here. So with that, we're going to go through the application flow that I currently have, and then I'll demo the application in a little bit. But I want to show you the application flow to kind of explain my thought process with the intake. And this isn't in concrete. I am a firm believer on strong opinions loosely held to a point, but this with software, you always have to be being able to pivot on the use case with the user base, right? So, like I said, I had a need. I was the user base, and I just wanted to get this out to the ether as fast as I possibly could. So a couple steps, and we'll go over, and a couple that aren't currently in the hopper. So, as I was saying, the first step really is getting Tacview files in. Tacview file import, step 1, okay? the initial user reaction out of the application is importing the Tacview. That's the bread and butter, the meat and the bones of the application. That's where all the data kind of comes in, right? So this application serves a prompt, right, to import the data. And without the user going into Tacview, I recently discovered that Tacview has a headless mode where you can actually supply a Tacview file and it will actually output a CSV file of all the events, which is super helpful. But it is at the very end of it just a CSV file. And rather than throwing some convoluted weird database into it, it's just SQLite. I didn't want to do anything crafty or cute or whatever. There's some people out there doing some weird, honestly, some weird stuff with databases and data. I just wanted to kind of keep this as modular as possible, as portable as possible, with the least amount of effort and dependencies as possible. So I know that people are going to have opinions on SQLite. I know people are going to have opinion on the framework, which is Electron, and there's a lot of reasons why I went for Electron here. And folks, honestly, I didn't want to do Electron. I've done Electron in the past, hate it, but for this, it works just fine. Yes, I know that you go through the repository, you'll see my comments on it. It all comes down to getting those frameworks stood up and actually working. There's one Tori for Rust. All the devs out there, you know that one for dedicated apps, and there's Qt. Again, more of the native focused application dev framework. Again, they have their own issues, and they were getting into the process of me just needing to get this done. So, not saying we can't shift, but like I said, check out the repository. There's going to be some explanations of that. I know there's a big wah-wah for everybody hearing that, but, you know, Electron is Electron, and it gets us from A to B. C might be getting out of Electron and porting it. I'm totally cool with that. And if you're a good developer, and if you're a wise human, I think you'll understand that you have to start somewhere. An MVP is misunderstood by a lot by being called a minimum viable product. I like to call them MVEs, minimum viable experiments, because you will try to take the least amount of effort you possibly can to get it out. And then at that point, you start the iteration point. So if you're a developer, you've been caught in those loops. So anyway, it's a little bit back, went on a tangent there, but it's SQL. So it goes, runs, you know, Tacview, headless mode, pops out the CSV. The application then grabs that CSV, okay, and then imports that into a predefined SQLite database. Check out the repository again. You'll see all the database columns and tables. It's organized in terms of the events. There are tables that reference other tables in terms of the data that comes out of one will be in another one in terms of, you know, being able to query this stuff. And again, it's not perfect. I'm going to be saying that a lot. I am not saying that I am a god tier Chad software engineer by any terms, but I am a huge proponent on getting a first release out the door. And I'm going to be saying that a lot. Get the release out the door and get it start getting used and get the feedback and start getting healthy people, healthy opinions from people that are using the application, right? Injects it into the SQLite database, okay? And the Tacview now is organized. There's a table view that you'll see. I'll go through the entire process all over, and you'll start seeing this and be able to put the Lego pieces together in your brain and understand like the whole process. This is already great, right? I don't need to really kind of explain why this specific mechanism kicks total ass. Number one, rather than just having a Tacview folder with thousands of Tacview files, if you're not pruning your Tacview file folder, you are gobbling up space, right? If you are used to Tacview and you do that regularly and you move them out and you got your own process, that's great, cool. But if I go in that folder, I'm sorting by date, I'm sorting by file size. Sometimes they save, sometimes they don't, sometimes they're corrupted. Sometimes, you know, whether it be the delay for anti-cheat, you know, kicks in and stuff like that. It's just all over the place, right? And without honestly knowing which server you're on and the map that you're on, the time of day that it was imported, right, for organization, the actual time of flight, right? When the hell was this? Outside of just looking on Windows and seeing the modification date, you start losing that timeline of events very quickly. So you have this table view now, which will have a calculated import date, right? Obviously the time of the import. But more importantly, I will go out there. I have code in there that will take the Tacview file name, take the date format that they chose to use, and convert that into a timestamp and save that into the database. So later on, you can actually query this, and we could build on this, or somebody could build on this and have a crazy, awesome, 9-head idea. But, the biggest thing with data is organization, right? The best you possibly can. So Tacview files in, we got it organized, it's referenced, we got the file name, we got the date, we got the name. Now let's start associating some viable, useful information, okay? Step 2, add the multiplayer server name. Without noting, I should say, or just honestly remembering which server we want, whether it be Hoggit, like I said, red flag, doesn't matter, right? If your Tacview file does not specifically call out what server it is and what map, or has some reference, and if you know anything about Tacview files or mission files or mission file names, everybody does this stuff differently, and normalizing this when you're trying to look through hundreds of Tacview files to see how you've been performant or have increased your skills in any part of your flight characteristics, or what we want to get better at, or just analyze. They can put Caucasus as CAU. They can put gray flag in there. They could not put gray flag in there. The idea behind this is you fly, you import it right in here, and you start identifying the information so you can start tracking it and you can organize it, right? So we're organizing this. First thing, multiplayer. Where the hell were you, right? So after you add your said Tacview files, let's say you import, 5 or 100 or whatever else, the application will go one by one through those. And yes, it is planned to do multi-file import. Again, time to market and get it out and start getting it used. There will be a prompt, and I will show you, like I said, in a little bit, to add a server name. Very simple. Whether it be Hoggit, pop it in there. Server name is saved to the database for future. So let's say you have 4 Hoggit TNN Tacview files that you want to all have tagged as Hoggit TNN, and they're all on Caucasus or GAW or PGAW, right? You now have organized all of your Tacview files that are pertinent and specific to those servers and maps. And again, think about this on the data side. We can now sort all PGAW Tacview files, or conditionally, we can sort all Hoggit related Tacview files and get specific Tacview file data from just or either or both of those flags. And I'll show you how the sort, the search and the sort works, and the idea behind that, and honestly, the power that you have with this organization. And again, this is very foundation level where it currently sits with this application. And I said I was going to say this a lot, and I'm going to say this again. Time to market. I wanted to get the hell out of I wanted to get this thing released and started use. There's going to be improvements with this. There's going to be better ideas, and I'm open for them. If you can have a coherent conversation as a developer and bring to light a really cool kind of condition, I'm all for it. Let's hop into voice chat and let's talk software engineering, or if you're into data science, or if you're just into flying in general and you don't know how to use this application, but you have a really cool idea, totally down for it. So we add the multiplayer server and we're injected into step 3. Step 3 is the relation between the multiplayer server name and tacking that on as a separate piece of data to the logged Tacview file. So we have a list of Tacview files, right? There is an edit and or remove button. Not and or, just edit and delete button to, untrack that. You can delete it, quote, quote. It doesn't remove the file, but it will get rid of the information in the database and that stuff. But there's an edit. You're not actually editing the Tacview file, but you're editing the Tacview file's information as it relates to DCS War Room. So you have a prompt, the edit box. It's pretty easy. User selects the DCS map that corresponds with the location flown in the Tacview flight. This is just what I was talking about. This is where everything starts getting regularly, or normally I should say, disjointed, right? we want to make sure that we organize that. So select caucuses. It's in the database. There's a master list of all the tracked DCS map names. I may change that in the future as a completely editable thing. We can vote on that or whatever, but right now it's hard in there. And when a new map comes out, I'll be updating the database tables. It's not ideal, like I said, but something that we can look forward, you know, possibly in a future release. I don't know. Maybe nobody cares. Perfect. But I needed to start somewhere. So select the database, or I'm sorry, select the map that corresponds with the Tacview. So it's drop down, select it, say caucuses, right? Then you actually select the multiplayer server that you added in the previous step. So whether it be Hogget or Gray Flag is the two examples I've been saying ad nauseum here. So let's say it's Hogget TNN, you know, or whatever I added for that name. You can add whatever kind of name that you want to have for the server name in there. You hit save, okay? You return back into, it goes into the database, updates the database tables in terms of the Tacview specific database table. You're popped back into the log view and you'll see your changes. So you'll see Hogget TNN in the table view. You'll see your map that you've associated. And again, you'll see this entire thing visualized in a little bit, but it's now saved into the database. So now we have a Tacview file that's been tagged with a map. Number one. Number one is the multiplayer server, honestly, in terms of like importance, I think. Number two is caucuses, or the map, right? So multiplayer server name, DCS map. We got the import date, we got the name of the Tacview file name, all that fun stuff. It's ordered, blah, blah, blah. It's ready to roll. So now let's start talking about tracking pilots. So actually, this actually needs to be renamed. I love doing things ad hoc. So, separate view. This is the step 4 of the process. You can't do anything at this point, or up until this point, unless you've completed step 1 through 3, right? You need the Tacview file. You need the organization of the server. It's forced. It makes the data more concise and searchable. It's just a step that you will have to go through to further organize the Tacview files. It's needed. You'll see it in a bit of why. Let's add some pilots. So this screen, which you'll see in a little bit, there's 2 fields. There is a tracked by name, okay, and the pilot name, right, which is a complete wild card. So if I type in my DCS pilot name of Frozen, Phrozen, completely lowercased, it will match any capitalization, any wing type. So if it's, elephant 1-1 pipe Frozen, it will catch that Frozen. It'll just match that, right? So obviously you want to be kind of specific, but not too specific. You don't want to be putting like elephant 1-1 because who knows if your name changes, right? Over time, you might go to 2-1, or you might not be an elephant. You might be something else. Whatever your call sign is, whatever your wing is, right? If you have brackets, right? If you're part of a group, it will omit that. But you can be specific too and put that in your wildcard to only bring out those reports. And like I said, the power in that is great in that you can track, if you've been using the same call sign, just Phrozen for an example, and I've changed my call sign like crazy up, down, left, and right all over the place, I can go all the way back in time as far as I've imported my Tacview files into the database and catch all of my data for all servers on all maps on any call sign in any module. That's great, right? And you'll see with the search specifically why that's important, because you get more and more granular. But if you don't want that, you don't have to go that crazy. You can just put an elephant 1-1 Frozen and just be like, that's the only call sign that I want to search for. For an example, I've been flying for 3 months with this call sign. I did a lot of crazy shit or stuff with this. And this is the data that I want to, start checking out some of the reports. That's cool too. So it's completely up to you how specific you want these search params basically to corral the data. And I did that intentionally, obviously. So pilot name, Frozen, the wildcard, and then tracked by. Tracked by specifically is just for your organizational purposes. So if I do Frozen, or if I do elephant 1-1 Frozen, right? Or if I do elephant11 frozen, but my first name is Brian, and everybody in my wing just knows everybody by his first names, right? For organization, you can select, you could type in Brian as the track by name and leave frozen alone. So think about how you could use that data and that association with pilots. You could put that as a wing name. You could corral that into a bunch of different things. A bunch of different things I haven't even thought about, right? Again, it's just associating your tagging, your wildcards. So let's say you add like 10 pilots, right? You have a wing, or if you're just by yourself, right? You add that pilot. It adds, obviously it gets injected into the tracked pilots database table. You have an ID, auto increments, all that fun stuff. We can now query against that, search against that, right? Now we really kind of go into the last step, and that's going to be the craziest one, is the search. Right? So if you do BDAs, battle assessments, I'm sorry, post mission, just anything, you want to talk about used munitions, you want to talk about landing, successful takeoffs, where do they take off, where do they land, that kind of simple stuff, very quick, how many kills, how many deaths, that kind of stuff. This is, like I said, this is where the visualizations really start coming out. So we have a couple different search fields that you can use right now. This, again, might be expanded upon. I hope that it is. There will be toggles that I'll be going over in a little bit on the review stage of this that will kind of, I should say, hopefully clears up the air of about my thought process behind this. And again, everybody's going to want to use this application slightly different. And I'm very keen on understanding and learning from people how specifically they would change the application and criticism. I'm completely up for criticism on this. So select your drop downs, you hit search, you show the graphs. There's a lot of graphs. There's a lot of planned graphs. I have some basic graphs right now. So, for the sake of possibly YouTube catching this, I have no idea. But now let's do some demo time, right? So let's actually see the application. First thing, very much alpha status right now in terms of the maturity of the application, the bugs that I know that are in there, the code that I've written in there, which every developer hates to have other developers look at their code. But again, in the spirit of getting this out and released and hopefully having other brains and other minds and other eyes, right, look at this and improve on it. I don't care. You can make fun of whatever you want to in here. It doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt my feelings. As a good developer, you have to be open for criticism and you have to be willing to learn from others. Always be a student, right? That's what they say. So this can be compiled. It runs currently only in Windows. There is some issues with it running in Linux and in Mac. I don't see or foresee anybody running this in Mac or Linux, being that DCS runs in only Windows. So the primary, obviously, focus group here, market segment, is Windows users. I have made that decision. There are different things I'd have to do with this application. And if anybody out there with electron experience wants to make this work in Mac or Linux and understands what I'm talking about, go forth and conquer. Let me check out what you got to say about it, and let's talk about some pull requests. Okay. So this will be compiled on releases. I did obviously put some demo data into this application so you can see the flow and the current status of it, but also have talking points on this so that hopefully it clears up some of the initial questions of, number one, use, but number two, where this is kind of planned on going, and three, where I think where people can take this in terms of it being a foundation. So this is the home screen. We have some very quick stats over here, and obviously the contribute stuff. Again, this may change completely. I may actually go right to the stats. I may go for file exports or generations of different stuff. We'll talk about all these separate sections as we go through. So in step one, the flight, or I should say the Tacview file import, right? That's this stage, right? So flight log management. Below is a list of currently imported Tacviews you've supplied the system. In this section, you can import or remove Tacviews from the system's database. There is a nice little call out here about not muddling with the Tacview file name generation. And I quickly glazed over this, but for further clarification, the flight date is calculated from this terrible format. I'm sorry if this is like a normalized format. I have never seen this in my life. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I've converted that to a timestamp which is saved in the database, and then I convert that further for the user interface. And you'll see that in the code if you guys want to start digging into it. Again, when did we fly, right? It has to be pertinent. It's a trackable piece of data. Let's break that down, make this a little bit easier to read. Rather than this, you get, 2023, April 17th at 1400, right? A little bit easier to go through. When was it imported, that kind of stuff. So importing a Tacview file. Again, this is what I meant before about, thousands of Tacview files. If you're not watching this folder, it can absolutely get unwieldy, but this is just the ridiculousness that is the file structure and file naming, right? No particular gripes with this, but just calling out inconsistencies, you know what I mean? Without them actually calling out the specific map name, okay? Like 4YA, for example, CAU, that's Caucasus, but you'll see over on, a different one over here, it'll actually say Caucasus completely spelled out. So it's inconsistent, right? So let's just grab one. We'll do some, I don't know. Let's just do this TNN release. So what it's doing right now is it's launching Tacview in headless mode with varying levels of success. There's no callbacks that I found out that I could be listening to, so there is some rudimentary, archaic ways of doing this. But basically, rather than having somebody go out into Tacview, okay, launch Tacview, export the file, go in here, import the file. This attempts to do this automatically. Whether we keep this in here or not, whether I want to continue trying to push forward with maintaining this ability is completely up to everybody's kind of use case. Sometimes this hangs, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes Tacview refuses to open. Sometimes it does it automatically. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't do it at all. And we're kind of seeing that right now. So like I said, there's some stuff in here that can be perfected. So it's added the file at the very top of that table view. You'll see that the server and the map is not set. So let's add that, right? So let's add a server. We haven't already, which we have, hog at TNN. I can add anything in here for the sake of just testing that. So it'll add that to the top. I did a couple tests actually, but it'll add it to the top. You can add and remove that kind of stuff. Okay. Close that. We are ready for map and server association. So if we click on edit here, again, we select which map it was. So Caucasus and hog at TNN. Okay. Which is totally fine. So save. It's now been associated. What's really nice about this is not only can you ad hoc like edit things and reassociate different things with different servers and stuff like that if you mess stuff up or whatever else. Again, this is going to be another data point that you can search on. So let's go into tracking. So here you associate your pilots by the handles that they use. You want to avoid using a full and specific name association. I added that. You don't have to abide by that. If you want to be as specific that you want to be for specificity. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm talking about? Words are hard. You can put that all in there. So let's say I have a pilot called, I don't know, Lightning 1.1 Dumbo, right? And I know that this dude's name is Mike, right? I can add that, okay? So it will associate or basically start or attempt to tag once we start going into the stats, this entire string, okay? Now, if I don't want that, and Dumbo man over here has had a lot of different call signs, okay? I can remove that, go back over here just to put in Dumbo, Mike, and add. Now it will add anything like Lightning 1.1, Bangle 1.1, or whatever the call sign is. It will match anybody's name that had a reference of Dumbo as a individually tracked pilot. So at this point, you're just pumping in all of your pilots you want to track. Maybe it's just you, whatever. Who knows? I don't even know if this guy exists with the flight logs. So as a flight lead, or as a let's just take this back. So as an independent pilot, right? You're just tracking a bunch of servers that you have flown on, okay? You can go in here and just put in your name, and this app will function just perfectly fine for you. For flight leads or wing owners or managers or whatever, they can put all of their associated pilots in here for tracking as they continue to fly with their group. There's no manual data collection. It's just happening behind the scenes, right? With Tacview. That's the beauty of Tacview. So say we have like 30 people in here, right? Now we start going into the stats that obviously is going to need some work, like I said, but also I hope that people look at this view and start getting ideas about or thoughts of saying, okay, this is where he started. This is like the general thought process behind that. We could go here, we could go there. This could change. This could be better. That's the kind of feedback I want. I don't want to be like, bro, it sucks. Dude, it's ass. I mean, don't even use the app at that point. You know what I mean? Like, just give me something valuable. Like, dude, it sucks because blah 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 blah, and therefore, Shark Tank it. And for that reason, I'm out. Who knows? It might be a great review. It might be a total ass review. Just give me something to work on, rather than it sucks, dude. Why does it suck? Tell me how it could be better. Dude, this is awesome. Holy shit. Why are you saying holy shit? What makes it really cool? What can we extend on? So stats. So stats below are various statistics, visualizations, and sorting based on provided TAC views, tag servers, and track pilots. So all of the things that we've done up to this point now start to intertwine and work together to show what we're trying to represent in terms of data. Okay. So select a pilot. I want all tracked. Select a server. All tracked servers. Select location. All locations. Right? Hit search. So went out to the database. Right? On all, and but the beauty of this is I can go back and forth and make modifications ad hoc as much as I want to. Okay? And you'll see where I started, I basically ended up on. But this is the thought process here, right? This is the overall performance. If I'm doing all tracked, right, Mike or pepperoni bologna over here, on any server, on any location, right, I can track as a very 30,000, pun intended, 30,000 flight, altitude view down on the entire group of pilots that I want to track, which is really useful if you're a flight lead, if you want to have like generic statistics on all of the tracked TAC views. It's pretty cool. You can go in here, you can sort, make things look cute, all that fun stuff, take things out. The idea here is to export these into varying different ways, and we'll start talking about the Discord and the API that's going to be exposed and the ideas behind that as we get further along with this. But the most important part is you can see, right, all of the modules that I've flown on the different servers with my different call sign names too. So I'm tracking by Frozen, okay? It caught my Hind flights. It caught my F-16 flights as a Bengal 1-1. It caught my F-16 flights as a Raven 1-2 and 1-1, right? It captured everything. If I wanted to omit these, right, we can sort, we can omit things and probably put some toggles in here. But as like at a glance, not bad. Okay, all right. So I've, Hind and F-16s during those Tacviews, okay? If Mike's not going to have information, but I could drill into this and just pick out my information. I can do everybody, okay, which will show everybody's modules, Tomcats, Hornets, whatever, helicopters, doesn't matter, and everybody's munitions, okay? The amount of the munition that was deployed, right? The type, the name, whatever. Right, so attackers, obviously that's Hind. So if I just wanted to view Hind stuff or whatever else, for attackers, whatever I'm trying to go over, or in my damage assessment, my post mission, right? Battle damage assessment, or just battle assessment, right? I can go over and be like, wow, okay, well, all right, let's talk about. I see, shot some 30 mil over here. Okay, let's talk about that. Or, hey, I saw you like using the K Mavericks, but those two Tacviews, those two missions that we flew, we needed the H's. Why are you throwing the big boys? You know what I mean? Why'd you do that? I didn't catch that. Kind of cool stuff. If you really start thinking about that way, like, okay, this is, we're assessing, right? We got the data in front of us. Coupled by, if I had multiple Tacviews from multiple places, I can now kind of track their behavior from server to server to server to server, or location to location to location to location. Just, again, allows you to drill in a little bit more on that person's activity, right? So if I just do gray flag here, this is going to show no results, but Hogget will show, obviously, all the stuff for Hogget. Identified by that. Okay? Cool. So where we currently are and where we currently want to go. Obviously, the next step, actually, before I do that, chart selections, definitely going to be on the item. That's something that I want. So being able to toggle on and off charts, really cool. Working on flight time right now. So successful takeoff to successful landing. It's a valid flight time, trackable number, minutes and seconds, hours, minutes, seconds. But I also want to track that by module as well. Okay. How much time do I have in the Tomcat? I don't fly the Tomcat, but if I did, 2 minutes, then it blew up. Or whatever, took off and I barely landed, 2 minutes. F-16, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours, right? Billions of hours, who knows? Hind, couple hours here and there, based on those Tacviews. It would be really useful to supply the system specific Tacview files, okay? Tag them appropriately, go into my stats and say, okay, well, yeah, I really didn't fly the Hind that much. I kind of know that, but like realistically, how much seat time did I actually get in that? And what the hell did I actually do last week? Right? I can see that. Okay, well, shit, yeah, went ham on attackers, Start drilling into that. There's a lot of information in this database in terms of confirmed hits, kills, obviously munitions. You can track which munitions hit which object successfully, destroyed it successfully as a registered event, right? But you can do that on a per module basis, which is really cool. And there's a lot of different stuff in this data that's cross-relational that you can mess with. You can do some really cool searches that I haven't even thought about. Sure, I'm certain of it. Absolutely certain of it. And there's just dozens of different conditions that you can make up here. Again, this is foundation level. So Discord bot API settings and about are not currently developed in. Discord bot right now, it's mapped out to basically generate an image, obviously reply to commands, but generate images of these graphs, number one, in a different way on a per pilot or group basis, right? So I can do, pepperoni bologna over here, hit search, hit generate, go to the Discord bot, post this in this channel, you know, as like a BDA assessment, as a card, right? Now you have this card, just an idea, like I said. You can post that out. It's pretty cool. Put your branding on it, put your flight name on it, and all that fun stuff. There's a cache system that's implemented in the database side that to where you can actually put a currency of whatever. You can make up a currency and start tracking how much you've actually expended in the system and how much your costs are. That could very easily be integrated into mission files. You know, what's currently available at certain runways or FARPs and stuff like that. Confirmed kills, you can actually turn that into a cash system where you actually earn money too. Infinite amount of possibilities of the gamification of it. But again, like I said, this is like the, you know, foundation, the foyer of really kind of going into that. Those are all going to be built out. Discord bot is gonna take some time, but this is all automatic. There's no manual of going into friggin' Tacview files to see how many attackers I shot. And if I wanted to, you know, say, all right, dude, well, you know, there goes 20 grand out of the the hind fund or whatever. This FARP is now going to be 4 attackers less. That's where the API comes in. Okay, because if you generate this stuff, you expose that, you could very well plug into this app, you know, expose it locally or whatever, and start hitting this thing with queries and start hitting this thing with the data that you're searching by. This is just a visualization. You can do all this stuff obviously remotely in a SQL database that's corralling the Tacview files. You might ask yourself, it's like, why the hell would I even consider an API? You can install this server side. Okay, you can actually have the server side have its master Tacview files be the endpoint, right? The API endpoint, I should say, to which you query the information from an exposed port or an address, right? So rather than just have like an individual pilot, you can actually run this on server side and do everybody, right? You track weird ass behavior. You can track, you know, pertinent stuff. Not have anybody kind of worry about it. You know, if you're a flight lead or whatever else and you have your own servers and stuff like that, you can fire this thing up and expose that, right? And view the data, you know, from that. And again, going forward on a server side kind of thing, again, I just did this as an independent, like sole pilot with a flight group. You can have the manual intervention of adding pilots with the wildcards, but you can also get all of the pilot ID names from the database because everything's logged from those Tacview files, and actually have a drop down on the stats automatically. You know, maybe have a toggle. Again, this is just an idea. You know, if you're a server owner with server Tacview files, expose maybe possibly all of the used pilot names and actually search from them. You know, who knows? So with that, that's where we kind of left the development. I shouldn't say we. I left the development. I am very keen on learning from the community on viability, thoughts, and testing. And if you are interested, reach out to me on Discord, PHROZEN, #1234. On GitHub, my username is WebDevBrian. That's WebDevBrian. Web Developer Brian. Made that really easy, huh? Reach out to me. You know, I'm going to open up this repository. If it gets steam, if people want to have it out, if they want to fiddle with it, I want to generate some sort of interest before I just start unlocking the keys, because I want to make sure when I do this, I'm listening to the people that really honestly want to contribute to it. And I have many repos underneath my belt, and I've seen this done a couple times where you know, it's been successful. So with that, if this is posted on YouTube, which I think I will be, add a comment. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you want to reach out, if you want to, you know, jump into a voice chat or just a conversation or anything, or an email or anything else. Just please, I'm here. I want the criticism. I want this thing to be torn apart. I really want to get some viable, like I said before, viable information, not, dude, this is awesome. And then it's like, cool, it's validating, but what makes it awesome? You know, why, how are you using it? Or, dude, it sucks. Okay, that's cool too. Why does it suck? How can I make it better? how do you envision this app to work? That is super helpful. Be constructive, but make sure you kind of explain your reasoning. That would be huge. I wouldn't be able to thank you guys enough. All right. And with that, we'll see where we go. Thanks, guys.